Welcome back to Resistance Chicks.
Welcome
we are
back.
your hosts. We just covered the Billy Graham funeral. And it was really, really anointed.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that you guys go back and watch that video, because I'm finding that when we put up more than one video at once, usually the last video that gets put up is the one that you guys see. So I want you to, this was tonight's show just split in two, and I almost need to put like a part 1, part 2 on here or something, so you guys can know to go back and watch that. It was really, really, really powerful. So today is, did I say earlier it was it's the 2nd, March 2nd, 2000.
Oh my gosh, and we're going to cover the Second Amendment.
Oh, wow. Isn't that really something, Leah? Oh my gosh.
All right, so why is Piers Morgan in the title? Because I have a blog that I have written, and by the way, we are working with one of our viewers who is kindly donating his time to help us come up with a website.
Not just time,
and he is a website designer. So he's literally helping us from the ground up build a website.
Hang on. First of all, you're not describing it at all.
Whatever.
He's a software engineer and a coder and a genius. He has a website called
Michelle
Clan
said if
Wars.
these men were coders, they'd be brain surgeons.
They are just that intelligent. I was asking him about the censorship. And I'm like, why hasn't somebody already come up with a YouTube alternative that really is significant? And he's like, I could get it together. I'm not afraid. It just takes financial backing. Like, I could get a team together, and he's already proven that he could do that. So if anybody knows of anybody that wants to financially back that, we can make that happen.
Yes, let's make that happen. We're going to talk about some censorship today, but I really want to focus on the Second Amendment, our Bill of Rights. And I'm going to bring to you guys some quotes from our founding fathers on guns. It's not just enough to say the Second Amendment is for a well-regulated militia. We don't need a militia anymore. So I want to break it down into very simple bites for you. Okay. Now, I want to preface this by saying I don't like guns. I enjoy firing a gun, but I have a good fear of them. I know what they can do, right? The idea is that our government should also have a healthy fear.
That's right.
Of the people. When Thomas Jefferson said, when the government fears the people, that's good. When the people fear the government, that's bad.
It's bad.
And the reason we keep our Second Amendment, and it's awful when people die, okay? But I'm going to break down some of these numbers for you on gun deaths and rifle deaths. And we talked about this before. I think it's less than 600 people are killed a year with a rifle. More people are killed with hands and feet, by the way.
It's a real statistic,
Close to 40,000 people die in car accidents
I gotta tell you. I've said this before on our show, but I'm going to say it again. It's my show. I can say whatever I want. They got to ban cars.
Yeah.
I have had enough of the deaths from cars.
And
it
alcohol.
is no excuse. There is no reason.
And alcohol, because alcohol mixed with a car kills people almost every time.
Now, here's the thing, and you made a really good point yesterday, and this is why we bring it up. And I don't care if you hit some sort of punchline here, because it's really important. People say that cars are a necessity, and that they are worth the risk and the deaths.
It's like, I think there's like 2 million accidents every year. And 40,000 people die, but it's close to like 1 million people are maimed and injured.
So it's like this.
Like 1 million people.
People say it's the hazard of transporting yourself via vehicle.
Right.
And every time you get into a vehicle, whether you're the driver or passenger.
You do not, by the way, have a constitutional right to drive.
Right. That there is a risk that you may lose your life every time you get inside of a vehicle.
Right.
Unfortunately, with our roads, there's a risk of just walking on the road. You could die. Chris Holman mentioned horse and buggy. Our Amish friends, and we have close Amish friends, have been hit by cars driving the horse and buggy. Mm-hmm. So it's the right to own weapons.
Right.
For a multitude of reasons why we need to.
Right.
It is part and parcel, and that is part of the risk that society takes.
Right.
For this right. So to separate the two, car wrecks, and understand, because one is tied to money, one is tied to your convenience in life, which one is tied to a much more selfish and self-centered thinking, and that is the cars.
Right.
And we all tend to agree on that selfish, self-centered thinking. And the other, guns, are not. It's not a selfish thing that most Americans feel the need to own weapons. We really think that it is important, that it is the right, it is the duty, and it is the responsibility that should a government ever usurp their powers, that it is the right and responsibility and duty and sacred honor of the American people to rise up and overthrow such a government. We would need weapons to do that. That's only one reason why the well-regulated militia is, one, to protect us from a standing army from our own government, hunting, home protection, things like that. But those two things, hunting and home protection, have nothing, they're not in the Constitution. That's not a reason, that's not a right. So Leah saw in our local newspaper today this cartoon. And my immediate gut reaction, do you want to read them what it says on the tag?
When will gun owners take steps to listen to our children? Which is more important, your gun or your kid? That's the foot tag on the dead fake body in the cartoon. Which is more important, your gun or your kid? And I said, this just blurted out of my mouth, our kids. That's why we own guns. Because our families and protecting our families, protecting our country, protecting the innocent, that is why it is so important that Americans hold on to their constitutional right and responsibility of having weapons. And I just felt Leah's, when she saw that, she's like, oh, disgusting. And I'm like, well, it's disgusting. And then when I saw that, it really is, it's a brainwashing that is happening in our society. You know, this article goes on to pretty much prove why we need to not have any more gun control. Okay, we can have people control. This particular act. Why are we talking about this if the FBI got tips?
Right.
Okay, I can understand this was random shooting. We're not talking about this when we're talking about black kids being killed in Baltimore and Chicago, which have some of the strictest gun restrictions, out there. Gang members will go get guns. Even this article says 99.9999% of people, gun owners are great people. Why are you punishing the 99.99999? It's like car accidents, right? Some people drive while intoxicated.
Yep.
Some people drive while they're too sleepy. Some people text and drive. But do we take away their phones? No, you're not allowed to text and drive in a lot of places, okay? But we haven't taken away people's phones. We don't take away people's cars. You don't take away people's guns because somebody else does something wrong with them.
I think that the equivalent, you hit the nail on the head, in our society would be the cell phones. You are not allowed to travel with your cell phone in the car. Literally, to be equivalent to what they're trying to say, you'd have to literally take their cell phone away.
You have to take all cell phones away because people are killing each other by texting and driving.
Yeah.
Even just accidents.
Yeah.
All right, so I watched an interview with Piers Morgan and this wonderful female black young conservative who is a spokesperson for the NRA. So I want to first give you an idea of who she is and why she was on the Piers Morgan show. Then I'm going to show you the interview with Piers Morgan, and then we're going to break it down because, honey, Piers Morgan, if you're watching, which you probably aren't, but you never know. I mean, the Twitter and the universe, people find people.
They do.
But if you're watching, you're from Great Britain. You really shouldn't tell Americans that we don't need a Second Amendment because we are America because we had a Second Amendment because of Great Britain. But that's not the first thing. Okay, there's many more.
Listen, if men didn't have their arms,
we would still be a British colony.
Maybe that's your point.
Maybe that is his point. All right.
Startlingly about myself. It turns out that I'm a racist, sexist, misogynist. This came as quite a shock to me. How did this happen? As a person of color, a single woman with a graduate degree who grew up poor in a home without a father, I had a clear political path to follow, and I followed it. I voted for Barack Obama. Twice.
2 times.
After all, we share the same skin color. His father was from Africa. Mine was too. What other reasons did I need? I was inspired to see a black man rise to the highest office in the land. I believed his ascent would herald a new beginning, a new era of racial healing and harmony. We would finally have that frank discussion about race that everyone always talks about. I was also inspired by his wife. I was thrilled to see such a strong, opinionated black woman take the national stage.
It's more like Michelle.
But then something happened. Actually, several somethings. I realized there was a big contradiction in my own life. I considered myself a free thinker. but I was thinking exactly what I was supposed to. I decided to start asking questions. I belonged to several campus feminist groups. I was even teaching feminism to inner city girls. Part of that teaching involved making the case for abortion. These girls needed to know that they had the right to make decisions about their own bodies. Surely, I thought, that's empowerment. But one day I asked myself, isn't it men who benefit most from consequence-free sex? Doesn't that give them even more power over women? And of course, abortion certainly doesn't empower the woman it prevents from ever being born. When I began to ask my other feminist friends how they reconcile these issues, they just got angry. I was called anti-woman, even by progressive men. But I'm not anti-woman, I thought. I am a woman. I just don't want to be a weak one. I want to be strong, like Michelle. At about the same time, while I was a student at the University of Texas at Dallas, the UT Austin Department of African Diaspora Studies released a statement in which they said, and I quote, African Americans are disproportionately affected by the saturation of our society by firearms. We demand that firearms be banned in all spaces occupied by Black people on our campus. Wait a second, I thought. Why would you want to ban firearms only in Black areas? Doesn't that mean that you either think Black people are more dangerous than other people or less worthy of protection? These questions did not endear me to my progressive friends. I was called a race traitor, even by white people. But I'm not anti-Black. I am Black. I just want to be safe, like Barack. I realized I didn't have a good answer. I only had more questions. Like, why were Blacks doing so poorly in cities that had been run by Democrats for decades? Was it racism and sexism that was holding people back? Or was it something else? The more questions I asked, the less popular I became. But here's the funny thing. I started to feel better about myself. I decided that the very definition of empowerment required me to take responsibility for my own life. I wasn't going to be anyone's victim, which meant I had to protect myself. So I bought a gun. I started to advocate for gun rights. That cost me more friends. I joined the pro-life movement and walked in the March for Life. More friends, gone. Then I crossed the line. I voted Republican, the party that views me as an empowered individual, able to shape my own destiny, not as a member of a victim group. And that's how I became a racist, sexist, misogynist. I'm Antonia Okafor for Prager University.
I love this woman.
I love it.
I love this woman. All right, so are you ready? You got your seat buckle on? Are you ready to see this interview with Piers Morgan? He actually...
I want to let you guys know that Leah has told me about this interview. But
Everyone
I have
cares
not
about the
personally
children.
seen it yet.
Okay, I was in America when the Sandy Hook massacre happened, and absolutely nothing was done after Sandy Hook to change any gun laws to stop it happening again.
See, false. Here's the thing. That's not true. Maryland passed some of the strictest gun laws, and in Baltimore has since become the most dangerous city in the United States as a result of gun laws passed because of Sandy Hook. So, Piers Morgan, get your facts straight first.
So I was the least
Number
surprised
one,
person.
That's not true.
Flag
That's
on
not
plate.
true.
That is true.
Here's the
It is
thing.
true. Tell me
That's
one.
not true.
Tell me a federal.
No, it's not. First of all,
me,
you can look at Maryland.
Wait, let me finish.
Okay.
Tell me a federal
flag on
national
play.
gun law that was changed after Sandy Hook.
National gun law.
Well, first of all, we in America believe that state by state, you should have that right to make your own decisions when it comes to gun laws. But I will give you one instance in Maryland. Maryland implemented many gun restrictions right after Sandy Hook. And in fact, Baltimore, which USA Today has deemed the most dangerous city in America, they have not only do they have the most restrictive gun control laws today because of Sandy Hook, they also have the most gun violence today because of those gun restrictions.
As you know,
we can look at Chicago, St. Louis, we can look at many places that have
Antonia,
implemented
what you're doing is playing semantics, as all the gun lobby people in America do. The reality.
Truth and fact are not
semantics.
semantics, okay? You're playing with semantics. And we're We're going to play with some fire here, Piers Morgan. You ready?
90 years, there's been no change.
Semantics. They're facts.
If I can finish, I'm just talking to you.
How is that semantics?
Let me just finish my question. Donald Trump, in fact, the only thing Donald Trump has done as president so far is relax the laws on mentally ill people getting access to firearms.
Whistle. Okay, so under Barack Obama, it made it so that people who were veterans or may have had any sort of depression or something like that couldn't get a firearm. You have to prove yourself at some point to be a danger to yourself or someone else.
Yeah.
And these were just like anybody like on Social Security. Bam, you're not allowed. And people who couldn't. There are other great congressmen who have explained this better than I can. But just to give you an example, somebody who might suffer from PTSD or somebody
like
who couldn't,
right?
somebody who may not be able to manage their financial affairs doesn't mean they can't protect themselves or have a gun.
Right.
Okay? Things like that. So
That has been the only move that this president's made.
No, he did not relax the laws on mentally ill getting firearms.
Well, he did. He did.
If you look at what he's doing right now, people are upset because he's actually talking about.
Okay, he gave a point, and she won't allow him. He won't allow her to finish.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Mental health.
Let me get you back. Yeah, he talks about mental health, but relaxes the laws, making it easier for mentally ill people to get their hands on guns. Let me ask you.
I'm going to keep my angry eyes and my temper down a little bit, but Piers Morgan, remember, you're in Great Britain. Please don't tell us what to do with our Second Amendment. Let me just... Oh, holier than thou. Okay?
Let me ask... It's true. Let me ask you this. In New York, they just...
Can we talk about terrorism in London right now? Can we just talk about terrorism in Manchester? Can we just... You need to shut up. And I don't use that word lightly.
Study about, I don't know, 10 years ago, which is very interesting, of professionally armed marksmen, police marksmen, trained, highly trained, and asked what their accuracy rate was over about a 10-year period in terms of training, when they were training with guns. And it was about 80%, very good. Then they did the same test on all the recorded incidents involving live firing. And the accuracy rate of New York marksmen, highly trained police marksmen, used to using guns with high training records of accuracy, it fell to 18%. So why on earth would you think that the answer to school shootings where a deranged kid comes in with an AR-15 firing 100 bullets a minute would be teachers who are not as highly trained as police marksmen?
It's not 100 bullets a minute, by the way. It's not.
Well, I fired one, it is. And when you mix it with a bump...
You did not fire an AR-15 100 shots per minute, Piers Morgan. I'm going to put a little S on you and call you Superman. You did not fire an AR-15 100 bullets in a minute. You didn't do it. I know you didn't do it. Show me the video.
Can we just all remember for 1 minute how many seconds are in a minute? 60?
So what did he say? What did he do? Point it at the ground and go bam, 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 bam. And
no, the only way that he would.
anything?
No, the only way that he would be able to do that is if it was like firing on the like it's supposed to, like with a bump stock or something. You know,
I'm not.
It really
it's
does.
45. You can go look it up. It's 45 to 60 rounds per minute.
Whistle.
That's the rate of fire of an
And
AR-15.
what is the rate of firearm when you convert it with bump stock?
The rate of... We're not talking on bump stocks here with the Florida shooting.
I just asked you about
that is not
bump
what he used.
Bump stocks for benefit of British viewers.
Here's the thing. Because of Las Vegas, they brought up bump stocks. Okay? I'm not here to argue, and she's not here. Nobody's here to argue for bump stocks because automatic firearms are illegal. Okay? They are illegal in this country. And if you want to talk bump stocks, that's a whole nother separate issue than the Second Amendment right now.
Right.
You can even see that President Trump has actually upset a lot of donors to show that he wants to ban bump stocks.
At some stage, you have to answer questions very straightforwardly.
She just did. Even Trump has talked about banning bump stocks. We're not here to talk about bump stocks.
Here's my question to you. Bump stocks are legal. They were acquired by the Las Vegas shooter, the worst mass shooting in American history recently. He converted 12 AR-15 assault rifles into effective...
You don't know anything because nothing has been proven or released about Las Vegas, so just shut your mouth.
You gotta leave Las Vegas to the side because nobody knows what happened in Vegas. What happened in Vegas stayed in Vegas.
Fully automatic machine guns using bump stock. Let me ask you again, given that it's still legal as things stand, what is the rate of fire of an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle if you use bump stock?
So when we are trying to make a semi-automatic and make it into a fully automatic, which, it's illegal here. And the greatest thing about that, too, is the fact that criminals don't care about the law. They don't care whether the bump stocks are legal or not legal.
You were very quick. You were very, very quick to tell me the answer.
Because I made sure, since you were lying about 100 rounds per minute, that I made sure that the audience knew that it was not 100 rounds per minute.
The audience is
automatic AR-15 is 45 to 60 rounds per minute.
The audience
That's
would
the
like
rate of
to
fire
hear.
of an AR-15.
The audience would like to hear you answer a simple question. If you use legal bump stock,
she just said she didn't know. Okay, she's not a bump stock.
But he's not listening to her.
And attach it to an AR-15. What is the rate of fire then?
She doesn't know.
Because it's what the Las Vegas shooter did.
I don't.
You don't know?
So if someone who is able to actually use a bump stock and know how to use it properly, meaning that they're trying to convert a semi-automatic to a fully automatic, then absolutely it's going to be more than what it would be when it's legally supposed to be a semi-automatic.
What would it be?
I don't know what the bump rate of fire is.
She doesn't know three.
You don't know. It's funny, it's funny, isn't it? How you don't know. Well, you think it's funny, Antonio.
No,
I
Piers,
don't find.
It's funny that
I don't find any of this funny.
I've been able to talk about all of the instances and to answer all of your questions, but bump rate, the bump stock fire, that's what you're trying to get me on. Yes.
I'm not trying to get you. I'm not trying to get you on anything. Except
he is trying to get her. He's trying to box her into a corner and saying, you know what? We don't all know all the facts. Can you come up with every number?
She came up with a factual answer, and that is this.
If you can handle
a bump stock, most people, and Chris can confirm this for me here in the chat, but most people that try to use a bump stock, they don't even like them because they jam.
And you can't even get like the whole 100. We've watched videos.
Yeah.
They jam. You can't even get it.
Most
stops.
people don't want a bump stock.
It beats your...
It doesn't work right.
Right.
Half the time.
What we're talking about with a Florida shooting.
I'm not trying to get you on anything. You were very quick to say that the AR-15 can only fire 60 bullets a minute when it's a regular AR-15. The shooter in Vegas.
It's the truth.
The shooter.
Here's the thing. If you want to talk about AR-15s, you want to talk about bump stocks, put that to the side, okay? It converts a semi-automatic into an automatic weapon, which is illegal. Nobody's questioning that right now.
Right.
In Las Vegas converted his AR-15s with legal bump stock, and that takes the rate to 400 to 500 bullets a minute, according to experts. Why do you need a gun that can fire so many bullets so fast?
First of all, it's not a high-powered rifle. I've worked at a gun range many times when it comes to firearms, and especially with rifles, you're not going to be looking at, maybe at best, what people use for hunting, and they do use it for hunting. In fact, I'll be using it in a couple of weeks for a varmint hunt. No, you just use it for varmints. You don't really even use it for deer or even using a
But people are using it to kill children. People are using it.
AR-15
People
or
are using it.
or 5.56 round is not a high caliber rifle.
It's illegal to use it to kill anyone. Okay? Just like it's illegal to use Islam to kill people.
Not high-powered rifle.
The killer at Sandy Hook
is very high.
Chris says the bump stock is a non-tactical novelty accessory.
Nobody would use it in a tactical experience because it's not reliable.
It's high power. The killer at Sandy Hook murdered 20 children with one of these low-powered rifles. The killer in Florida just killed 17 people.
And people terrorists mowed over people with a truck.
In your country.
Piers,
where
in
guns
your
are
city.
illegal, mostly.
You're going to ban a high-powered truck?
Including 14 children with this low-powered rifle. These are...
In Sweden, they killed kids with a truck, with a car. You banning cars. It's illegal to hit people with cars. Did you know that?
Clearly,
the killer in Virginia Tech,
killing machines.
In Virginia Tech, use a .22 to also harm people. It is not, again, it's not about the firearm. It is the person behind the firearm who is intent on doing harm. What we as law-abiding citizens want, as the NRA wants, are people who are law-abiding, who are able to protect themselves, to make sure that they have access to the means to defend themselves. Even in the shooting, who were we waiting for? We were waiting for the brave individuals who were going to step up and have a firearm in order to do so. That is the only way you're able to stop someone else who is going to do that.
Step up.
How many children have to be shot dead before you, Antonia, believe that this is not the answer, that more guns...
How many people have to be run over trucks until you ban all trucks, Piers Morgan?
Mm-hmm.
And relaxing gun laws and not having tighter restrictions actually doesn't work. That actually in America, where 85 people a day die from gun violence compared to 32 people a year in a country like Britain. Explain to me how many have to die
for you to realize that gun control does not work, and it has not worked.
Well, how come it works here?
I can show you example after example of people using guns for self-defense, especially women like me.
How come we have 32 gun deaths a year here when we brought in massively strong gun control after the Dunblane school shooting? How come in Germany they have hardly any gun violence? How come in Japan they have 2 or 3 gun deaths a year? How come in Australia, where they changed all their gun laws in 1996?
Particularly on Australia, gun violence had gone down already, just to let you know. And to have these random shootings come up, the numbers didn't really go down in Australia because they took everybody's guns.
They haven't had a mass shooting since. How come in every damn country where they bring in tough gun control across the country, guess what? Gun violence plummets. And why can't you lot see
Piers, of course,
that
you
is what
use
happens?
Every example in the West. You can't use my parents who are from Nigeria, who came over here because they want a country that would be for the citizen, who wouldn't implement laws that only restrict those who are law-abiding and want to protect themselves from protecting themselves.
Okay. Yeah, I'll tell you what I
in
want
Nigeria, yes, in Egypt, who have more mass shootings than Americans.
We got to leave it, but I would like...
I love that you use Japan and Australia and the West for your examples, but you don't look at the countries where people actually have bigger issues.
Okay, let's go.
Well, America's definitely not an issue.
You know what? I'll tell you what the bigger...
We have to leave it there.
The bigger issue is that you lot, on the NRA side, genuinely put your right to bear your guns...
Yes, 5 million Americans that are NRA
Your right to bear your assault rifles above the lives of children. Sam, let's go to you for the last word. It's not funny, Antonia. Children being killed in school is not funny.
You know what's funny? It's funny when you think that you're going to bully someone, and to think that I don't, as a black woman, that I wouldn't want some way of defending my life. Yes, I believe someone who's 18 years old, who we consider okay to be able to go into the military and die for our country, is adept at being able to use a firearm at 18. And that is not really the issue here. Changing it from 18 to 21.
Yeah, it's got nothing...
You know what? Evil does not have an age limit.
Yeah,
that is the issue here.
Evil
is
should
the
not...
human condition. It is not the firearm.
Yeah, it's got nothing to do with your skin colour, so shame on you for bringing that into this debate, because it's got nothing to do with you being a black woman.
Shame on you, Piers Morgan, that the fact that you think that the examples that you use were all countries that are in the West or have Western culture. You don't talk about
the West.
Middle
Do you not
East
realise you're in the West?
Africa, or
America is in the West, you ridiculous woman. Let's go. Sorry, do you even know where America is? It's in the West.
And he shuts her down. Now, I don't believe that he gave her a fair shake at all. So I'm going to start by talking to you. Okay, I'm just going to read some of my. You know what? It's people aren't calling them blogs anymore. They're calling them like op-eds. I'm going to read my op-ed. Stop it. The question remains, are guns in Western cultures a danger to society? Piers claims that Western countries with strict gun laws are safer. He points to Australia's gun grab, for example, but is any country really safer with strict gun restrictions? How do people fare overall with gun-free countrywide zones?
Chris Holman leaves a good comment here. There, once again, no one has an assault rifle. He just said assault rifles. Okay? Nobody has an assault rifle. Only the military has assault rifles.
So, yeah, I just watched an interview, and I know I'm going to play it for you because it hurt my head, where
it was really painful. Joe Scarborough, was interviewing one of our congressmen who served in the military, and he was quoting some military hoo-ha who said that if they had AR-15s in the Vietnam War instead of M16s, that they would have been able to kill more Viet Cong. Now, here's the thing. Because it would have been lighter and easier to use.
Right.
I can almost guarantee you, only if those AR-15s were fully automatic. Because the M16 is fully automatic. So, yes, what they're saying is take the AR-15. It's better. It's lighter. It works better than the M16, and make it fully automatic, which is what they do use, from what I understand, in Afghanistan and other places. From what I understand, and from what I've heard. Now, I want to read to you
the Second Amendment, because that's what this is all about. We have to take away all, when we're talking about our Constitution, you have to take the emotion out. You have to take away everything out, because freedom of speech can get people hurt. Freedom of speech can get people killed, right? Yeah. The left is trying to squash our freedom of speech, right? And they want to take away the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is a dangerous amendment. It's very needful in a free society.
Yeah.
Okay? A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state. A right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And so, I'm going to read to you some of the Founding Fathers' quotes where they talk about saying, yeah, it is dangerous to keep and bear arms, but it's more dangerous to not bear arms in the long run.
Well, I want to point something out before you finish reading that, and that's when Piers was listing all of these countries, the UK, Germany, and forgive me, my German and UK viewers, this may offend you a little bit. Your countries have been overridden by socialistic ideas that borderline communism, especially in Germany. These censorship regulations and laws that are coming
the people
out
fear
right
the
now
government
are very, very dangerous. And there will come a point where there are going to be people that want to rise up and they won't be able to.
Right.
Because they won't have the arms
right.
to defend themselves.
Right.
The idea that a government should ever tell people that they cannot have arms to defend themselves. What happens when that government decides to grow outside of its bounds? And that is what the Second Amendment is for. It is
one of the reasons.
A standing militia to protect the state
from militia, not
a regular militia to protect the state from a standing army that the government would choose. The EU is wanting to put together an army. And it's really dangerous when we have the UN having troops here in the United States.
Right.
And if you take away the people's right to defend themselves, we could quickly and overnight, instantaneously,
what I don't have in this blog
become the Jews in Hitler.
Is exactly what you're talking about. One of the things I didn't put in this blog, because we've talked about it before, my op-ed, is in the past 100 years, I'm going to keep saying it, I probably should put it in my op-ed. In the past 100 years, we've seen Hitler's Nazism. We've seen Chairman Mao. We've seen Cuba. We've seen now the breakdown in Venezuela. We've seen North Korea. We've seen the Bolshevik Revolution. We have seen totalitarian governments who now control the people and do not allow the people to bear arms. Do not allow the people to have arms, okay? We talked about in different incidences, like when Poland held off the Bolshevik Revolution. Why? Because the people had arms. They had guns to fight against a foreign
every communistic society or government that has been able to usurp and take power over their people, they pulled their guns from them first.
Millions and millions of people have died because of communism and Nazism and fascism, okay? Within the past 100 years. If you keep talking about the Second Amendment as in this tiny blip of history and the mass shootings, okay, you have to be able to use your mind and think logically and say how many deaths versus how many deaths, right? We keep a right to bear arms so that we aren't overrun by communists and socialists.
Maybe you could say this to Piers.
Nazis.
Maybe this would be fine. You know what? All right, Piers. Y'all people are different over there in the UK. Maybe you don't have a threat of having a George Soros take over your country or a Hillary Clinton getting elected and then all of a sudden there are microchips and scanners and we've got, Glenn Beck's Agenda 21 and we're living it out.
Right.
Like seriously, or what is it, 1984? That is what we're looking at. That is the threat here in the United States. So you know what? Maybe in the UK you guys don't have that, Piers.
All right, so
maybe that's not an issue. But here in the United States, it is a very real, near, and present threat. And our founding fathers prophesied and predicted that threat may come to be. And that is why they said that the right to bear arms shall never be infringed. Never.
Never. Okay, now we shall talk about what exactly our founders meant when they said the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And we shall look at their own words, not the words of some modern liberal leftist hysteric gun grabber revisionist.
Thank you.
First, let's look at how many new guns have entered the market in America each year and compare that to the homicide rate. We see that there were nearly 10 million more guns manufactured in 2013. This is where the chart ends. Than in 1994. So every year, right? Now, if guns killed people randomly on their own, we would expect to see a significant rise in gun homicides, when in fact, the homicide rate overall has fallen significantly in the past 20 years, from 2013, from 1994 to 2014. I want you to see this, right? The homicide rate is the same in 1963 as it is right now. All right? I want you to see that. I want you to take that in. I want you to breathe that. You probably can't see this chart.
I don't know if they can see that very well.
Yeah.
I could probably pull up the blog.
Put the blog in the link, and I could. So, for an example, in 1994, there were about 6.5 million guns. All right, new guns, right? In 2013, there were 16 million new guns, and yet, with 10 million new guns, that's just in 1 year, the homicide rate still fell. All right, the homicide rate still fell. More guns. The homicide rate, people killing people, fell. All right, I want Piers Morgan to see that. Okay, so this is from this Mrs. Institute article, and again, you can click on and read the whole thing. Ask the average American if crime is falling in the United States. However, and you're unlikely to hear about how homicide is at a 50-year low. The public is unaware that homicide rates have fallen. As Pew has reported in recent years, in fact, the American public is unaware that the homicide rate in the United States has fallen by 49% over the past 20 years. And while Pew doesn't report it, it's also a safe bet that the public is also unaware that the homicide rates have collapsed as total gun ownership in the United States has increased significantly. If I were cause and effect, gun rates actually cause less people to kill people. I mean, I don't believe that that's actually the correlation.
So when you compare these two things, and I don't want to do this too prematurely, but seriously, we'll just do it right now. When you compare the homicide rates falling and the mass shootings rising, if the gun ownership, rates are increasing, then we have to say, you know what? There's a different factor at play here.
Exactly. And what I didn't put in, there's so much that I didn't put in here. This is just a few facts, right? When people break down how these mass shooters obtain their guns, it's usually illegally or it could have been stopped. Okay? Over the past 20-year period, the number of new guns in the U.S. that were either manufactured in the U.S. or imported into the U.S. increased 141% from 6.6 million new guns in 1994 to 16 million in 2013. This means a gross total of 132 million new guns. 132 million new guns were added into the U.S. population over that time, and the homicide rate went down. Maybe people are waking up. I'm not going to shoot that guy because he can shoot me back, right? Now I want to show you this chart. Okay. Now the dark red is per 100,000 people.
Homicides
about 40, and then the lighter red is 20 to 40. Now
homicides per 100,000 people.
This is Mexico, right? And this is the United States. And I want you to see that on all these border towns, especially in Texas, where gun laws are not strict, like the best, in my opinion, in the United States, compared to over the border in Mexico, where gun laws are very strict. Only the cartel has guns, and I think they manufacture that on purpose to keep control. Look at the homicide rates on the borders of New Mexico. Look at the homicide rates on the borders of Arizona. Just across the border, where gun laws are good, and you can have a gun and you can shoot to protect yourself. It's in America now. Piers Morgan wanted to say that the Canada and America are Western countries. Well, what do you call Mexico? Mexico is not a third world country. It is a Western country. This is a border. It's just a line in the sand, in the grass, in the prairie, whatever you want to call it. And yet, what? In the dirt.
River.
In the river. What, rivers make people kill people? No. No, the cartel knows if they shoot you, you're dead, and you cannot defend yourself. Guns aren't going anywhere, right? Guns are not going anywhere. Bad guys are going to keep getting guns. And so I wanted to bring that up for you. Mom, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I got this. Now let me have the mic a minute.
She's all excited, like a little kid.
I'm excited. Okay. Well, I just want to give you a little history. My family started Ohio. We're proud of Ohio. And we wrote the Ohio Constitution. So before the government comes in here with their Constitution...
Brick by brick, my family laid the foundations
of Ohio. Amen. But we were godly people. And read this. Just read that in up to 7.
Up to 7. All right. All men are by nature free and independent.
This is the Constitution, by the way.
The Constitution
and senators, before they take our guns, they have to get through our Constitution.
This is the Bill of Rights,
Ohio.
Article 1.
Of Ohio. All right. So all men are by nature free and independent and have certain inalienable rights, among which are those of enjoying and defending life and liberty, acquiring and possessing and protecting property, and seeking and obtaining happiness and safety. Section 2. All political power is inherent in the people. Government is instituted for their equal protection and benefit, and they have the right to alter, reform, and abolish the same whenever they deem it necessary, and no special privileges or of immunities shall ever be granted that may not be altered, revoked, or repealed by the General Assembly. The people have the right to assemble together in a peaceful manner, to consult for their common good, to instruct their representatives, and to petition the General Assembly for the redress of grievances. Section 4. The people have the right to bear arms for their defense and security, but standing armies in a time of peace are dangerous to liberty and shall not be kept up, and the military shall be in strict subordination to the civil power. Number 5. The right of a trial by jury shall not be invalid. Number 6. There shall be no slavery in this state, baby, nor involuntary servitude unless for the punishment of a crime.
You were talking about 7.
7. Now, Section 7. All men have a natural and indefensible right to worship Almighty God according to the dictates of their own conscience. No person shall be compelled to attend, to erect, or support any place of worship or maintain any form of worship against his consent, and no preference shall be given by law to any religious society, nor shall any interference with the rights of conscience be permitted. No religious test shall be required as a qualification for office, nor shall any person be incompetent to be a witness on account of his religious belief, but nothing herein shall be construed to dispense with oaths and affirmations. Religion, morality, and knowledge, however, being essential to good government, it shall be the duty of the General Assembly to pass suitable laws to protect every religious denomination in the peaceable enjoyment of its own mode of public worship, and to encourage schools and the means of instruction. That's actually...
Read 7 again slower. It's very important.
Just read the...
All men have a natural and indefeasible right, not defensible, defeasible, to worship Almighty God according to the dictates of their own conscience. No person shall be compelled to attend, erect, or support any place of worship or maintain any form of worship against his consent.
Now, pause. Let me insert something here. When it's talking about that, they had just, in Ohio, this is representative of our entire nation. This is the Constitution. It goes way back. Had just come from a place where the Catholic Church, unfortunately, was...
And the Church of England.
And the Church of England, excuse me, I should have said it that way, was compelled on the people. They had to pay taxes to maintain it. So this isn't exactly a separation of church and state. It's just a separation of a governmental church,
right? That you have to
attend and go to and things like that. They could put people in prison for this,
right? Exactly. Or maintain any form of worship against his consent, and no preference shall be given by law to any religious society, nor shall any interference with the rights of conscience be permitted. No religious test shall be required as a qualification for office, nor shall any person be incompetent to be a witness on account of his religious belief. But nothing herein shall be construed to dispense with oaths and affirmations. Religion, morality, and knowledge, however, being essential to good government. Now, this is what they got from George Washington writing the Northwest Ordinance. Religion, morality, and knowledge, however, being essential to good government, it shall be the duty of the General Assembly to pass suitable laws to protect every religious denomination in the peaceable enjoyment of its own mode of public worship, and to encourage schools and means of instruction, meaning schools and means of instruction legally can and should promote Christian morality, Christian
and religion and morals. They're essential for good society, so you have to teach it.
To good government. It doesn't say good society, it says good government.
So before, we have borders also.
The government's not coming in here. The federal government and those stupid communists aren't coming in here. You got to cross our borders first.
Right.
In Ohio, we'll live by our Constitution right here that upholds God. Did you see the title of it? We are thankful. The very beginning sentence says, we are thankful to Almighty God for our freedoms, not the government. Very top here. We the people thankful to Almighty God for our freedom in Ohio.
All right, so back to Mexico. Da, 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 da. You can't own a gun in Mexico, but the cartel will shoot your body and put you in a big pit. All right, so what is shown by this image is that gun violence does not go down simply by making good, honest citizens easy targets. Gun-friendly Texas has a much lower homicide rate than its Mexican.
I'm proud of my grandparents.
I know why you're proud.
Yeah.
Mexican bordering neighbor. If we are to expect that incoming immigrants pose no greater threat than any average American, why is the homicide rate so high in Mexico? If we're to expect that incoming immigrants pose no greater threat than the average American, why is the homicide rate so high in Mexico? If the immigrants coming in, they're not going to shoot you. If Mexicans aren't inherently going to shoot people more, which is what everybody's telling us.
So hang on. You're telling me that the volume is high. Oh. And I don't know, I mean, aside from my mom speaking and the mic was close to her face.
Just maybe I can tear it down.
I didn't do anything else. I didn't touch the volume. Sorry. Let me know if it's still loud or if it was just when Patriot Gallery was speaking.
It's because people can't defend themselves, and gangs and cartels know this. Okay, now on to the UK. Piers Morgan's country of origin. Although he likes to tell Americans how they should live, maybe a little bit of imperialist blood still flowing in his blood. I pose the question, are people safer overall in the UK? Now, so we're not going to talk gun violence in the UK, but I want to talk about something else. Are you safer in the UK than you are in the United States? And actually, there are studies and where people have been questioned if they feel safe, if they feel the police will protect them.
Hang on, we're having issues with the volume.
Okay.
I think that might have been it.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Hang on. I think the microphone was unplugged a little bit. We're going to have to wait for the leg.
I'll keep talking. So, we're going to talk about being safe in the UK. Because we're talking about Piers Morgan today. We're not talking about anywhere else. We're just talking about Piers Morgan in the UK, the United States. And the people, when they are asked if they feel safe in the UK, if they feel like the government is going to be there for them, overall, people feel a lot less safe in the UK. They feel less safe in the UK than they do in the United States. Now I want to talk about there are 64.65 million people in the UK in an area living in an area about the size of Michigan.
Okay, they said it's better now.
Okay.
Seriously, let me show y'all what happened. This came it was like half unplugged.
Okay.
So
that makes sense. I want to talk about rape statistics in the UK.
I was going to try to listen to it, but now they say it's okay.
There are, just to compare, there are 323 million people in America. Okay. So 323 million versus 64 million. All right. I want you to, about 5 times the amount of people in the United States as in the UK. In UK,
just 5 times?
About, yeah. In UK, there were approximately 85,000 women and 12,000 men were raped in England and Wales in 2016.
85,000?
Women and 12,000 men.
Who's raping the men? Other men?
About 97,000 people were raped in the UK.
Let's round that up to 100. 100,000 people raped in 2016.
These are from this is from status crime and rape and punishment. Between 60 and 95,000 people are estimated to be victims of rape every year in England and Wales, and I want you to see that there are about 15,000 or 16,000 offenses become public police record. About 3,800 offenses will become detections, recorded crimes that proceed either to court or to an out-of-court disposal. Only 2,900 people will actually face a court proceeding, and only about 1,000 people are ever convicted for rape. And so if I'm raped in the UK, I'm not going to feel real confident. And we've seen that with the grooming gangs and things like that. I'm not feeling safe in the UK, by the way. What?
I highlighted it. The bottom, rape go up.
Rape goes up significantly in the UK, while gun ownership has gone down and been severely restricted. The courts and police do almost nothing to stop it, as you can see by the conviction rate. Why convict anyone at all? Maybe just make rape legal.
Sure.
Why do you convict? If there's definitely for sure thousands and thousands and thousands, almost 100,000 rapes. And these rape is actually going up and up and up. Crime is going up. Crime in general is going up. Now, he wants to just focus on homicides, on killings. Well, I believe that you have to step back and look at an entire picture.
Right.
All right?
I read that, and what Leah said is the violence in Britain.
They said it got too
The
close
violence
to you
in
before.
Sweden has gotten out of proportion. Just the violence. You brought these Muslims and they're bringing this violence. This society is becoming more and more violent. But I wanted to say, the right to bear arms, my grandfather's right to bear arms, because they fought Indians. They fought the British.
You can't say Indians, it's politically incorrect.
Now you get my off thought. But we carry our guns because we have had to fight this slavery. You know, we had to fight a war for slavery. So we have our guns. And you're never disarmed American people because we can make guns. We're not stupid.
I was going to bring Matt in for that.
Huh?
I was going to bring Matt up for that.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, my grandfathers and we will, well, I think men should fight wars. I don't think women, that's their job.
I agree.
They need to be home protecting children. They have a gun to protect children.
Yep.
Somebody's got to protect the children. But our grandfathers have always had guns. We'll keep our guns because we have fought wars against communism,
Tyranny.
Nazis,
You can just
Hitler,
call it tyranny.
fascists, everything. But we will carry our guns and defend ourselves.
All right, so now we know that the population in the UK is about 65 million. Population in the United States about 323 million. However, in 2016, the same year, an estimated 95,000 rapes occurred in the United States.
So
the same
less.
exact.
It's actually just a little bit less.
Well, it's a little bit less. There's less rape in the United States with a population 5 times, millions and millions. That rate, if you want to be the same as the UK, this should be, 500,000 rapes a year if you're going to be proportional.
5 times.
Okay, so I'm just saying there's thousands. I want to talk to Piers Morgan and say, do you know that rape can kill somebody mentally and emotionally?
So, Piers, how many more rapes have to happen before you decide that your right to not have a weapon?
No. This is better for me. Ready? So while the United States has a population 5 times the size of the UK, the estimated rapes are nearly the same. If Piers Morgan wants gun control in the United States for 11,000 gun murders, there are 11,000 gun murders every year. They have 95,000 rapes. I'm sorry if people die. We want to talk about this, right? We want to find answers. But you can kill somebody mentally with a rape, okay? And you can't just look at murder, right? So I'm suggesting that the UK adopt a male anatomy control in the UK. And maybe a user permit or high surveillance on all males, maybe a tracking device in the genitals to make sure that when the person engages in the act with his weapon, it can be tracked. Yeah. So all male acts with the genitals in the UK should be tracked.
Yeah.
And you should not be able to actually, mental health patients, anybody with a history of mental health. No, just mental health.
Okay, just mental health.
And mental health. Anybody with a history of mental health
Sure.
or any other problems, their male genitals, which is a weapon.
It's a weapon.
Should be locked away and not be allowed to be used.
Yeah.
You cannot use it. They become impotent. It doesn't work.
I don't know how you're going to pee. They have to figure that out.
I don't know. But that's my estimate. That's what I think we have to do. So when Piers Morgan advocates for men having to have genital control, then we'll talk about some gun control.
Yeah.
Okay? When you can control your rapes and get it down to at least the same level, right? Maybe we'll have a conversation, but you have no right to talk, Piers Morgan, because you aren't doing anything about that weapon that men carry around. All men carry around every single day.
Every day.
Every day they're carrying around a weapon. 95,000 people are victims of those of their male weapons.
Piers, so this is better actually. How many women have to get raped before you decide that you're right to carry around your little weapon?
Exactly.
Probably is a little weapon.
Right. It's a little tiny bag of 22, man.
Henry wants to know if we're serious.
I can't answer that question for you.
Henry, you haven't been around long enough.
UK crime stats are going up. Ridiculous meets ridiculous. Okay. You have the right to bear your genitals, and I have a right to bear my arms. Okay? Nobody's taking away your genitals. All right? Unless you're a criminal. Then I say, whack it off. Take away your weapon.
That's
I'm
right.
all about that.
Yes.
If criminals who have killed and murdered cannot get a weapon, I believe males who have committed rape they're not allowed to ever carry a weapon again. Whack it off, baby.
And I can help with that.
We can help that. I don't see any problem with that.
For
I don't
sure.
know why. Most men would say, no, you can't whack off a weapon.
You can whack off the weapon.
I believe you can whack off the
For
weapon.
sure.
If you're well known to be using it. UK crime stats are going up. Ministers will also be concerned that the country is becoming increasingly violent in nature, with gun crime actually rising 23% to 6,375 offenses.
They're afraid you're going to start cursing again.
Largely driven by an increase in the use of handguns. Knife crime has jumped by 20% to 34,703 incidences, the highest level for 7 years. The largest increase in knife crime came in London, which accounted for 40%. There has been a particular increase in the number of robberies at knife point, nearly to 13,000 incidences. So we can talk about crime. We talk about crime. You want to talk about murders because that's the one statistic. Let's talk about all crime in the UK versus the United States.
Here's the difference, and this is really what it boils down to. Like she said, what was the name of the young lady we just watched interviewed? I put it in the title.
Antonia.
Piers was coming after her and saying, it's all about the guns. And she said, evil is evil.
Right.
We have to stop evil. And what you're finding in the UK is that evil will find an avenue.
Right.
And what happens in the United States
right.
versus the UK is when the evil finds an avenue, regular citizens, like that amazing man in Sutherland Springs,
right.
Texas, with the church massacre, who ran out of his house barefoot with his AR-15, stopped a madman. And he was an NRA instructor, Piers. So when the evil rises up in the UK, and it will rise up because you can't suppress evil with legislations, Piers.
Right.
There's no one there to rise up and meet that evil. But here in the United States, when that evil rises up, there should be people, and there should not be gun-free zones so that people can rise up to meet that evil equally and take it
a
down.
Muslim grooming gang raping somebody, I'm shooting them. I am shooting them.
Yes.
All right, here's the thing. This is old. This is really old, and I couldn't find a comparable article like this modern day. If you find one, send it to me. This compares the crime rates in the United States, Britain, and the U.S. I know that it's substantially worse in the UK now. This is from 2006. But even in 2006, the crime rate in Britain and Canada and the United States, Britain had a higher crime rate than the United States and Canada.
Okay. And
people like your home or your car, your property being vandalized. In Britain, it was 22%. In the United States, it was 15%. Number of households victimized by crime in Britain in 2006, I know it has risen. It was 36% versus the United States is 32%. Net individuals victimized by crime in Britain, it was 25. In America, it was 21. So, and actually net individuals victimized by violent crime, 4 to 3. And so here's the thing. I know that this has gone up in Britain because of, I don't want to say right now. I don't want to make it about that right now. Homicide is awful. And whatever weapon is used. Unintentional deaths are awful as well. We have epidemics in the United States such as heroin. 64,000 people have died from drug overdose in 2016. I want, what is Piers doing about our border? What is Piers saying about drug mules?
How many more overdoses do we have to have, Piers, before something is done?
Right. How
many kids died from mass shootings in the past, let's say, the past few years? Do we have a stat that's even close? Or I guess since
probably
Columbine.
about 100, probably about 100, maybe.
You do understand, Piers, that these numbers in all of these other crime areas and deaths and murders and homicides are far larger than mass shootings at schools.
Right.
Why is the mass shooting at schools taking precedence from people stopping these kinds of crimes, these kinds of rapes, these kinds of murders?
Right. So we talked about the car accidents. I don't want to go over that again. Again, 40,000 people lost their lives. People still drink above the limit. Thousands of people are killed by drunk driving every year. You can click on the stats. Now I want to go into something that's a little bit stickier. And I don't want to offend my British people because you did not do this. However, there's a reason why people need to have guns. And the British Empire is one huge reason. So numbers can be spun to show whatever statistics you want. We don't allow gun ownership in America based on a homicide rate here or any other country. No, we have the Second Amendment to keep tyranny at bay, tyranny that has been used by Great Britain to subjugate people who were not well armed. I don't want to bash the history of Great Britain, but I think some discussion of its imperial colonial history is needed to wake up, a wake-up call to spoiled Brits like Piers Morgan, who seem to only see what is right in front of them and not what is behind them or what lays in front of them. We talked about the EU.
Speaking of that imperialistic society, I believe that your government probably used weapons to be quite so imperialistic. So maybe to stop the imperialism, we should take away the government's weapons, like your armies shouldn't have weapons. I mean, seriously, that could be a thing. Maybe the government shouldn't have weaponry. All right, I'm just saying this is the insanity of the talk that they're talking about. Well, no, our armies have to have weapons because we have to protect our country.
All right, so
yeah, that's why the American people need weapons to protect their family.
Bring up some bad history, okay? In the UK, the Great Famine of 1887 to 78. Maybe it's backwards. Sorry, 78 to 87 probably was depicted here in the Illustrated London News in 1877 with the caption: "The famine in India. Natives waiting for relief in Bangalore." So I just went up and down the steps. There are so many pictures of emaciated people, like literal pictures. When Britain went in and colonized India, they have 3 crops a year. And if one fails, they have the next one to go to, and they heap back stores. And I know y'all love Winston Churchill, but he didn't do something right, and it caused people to die.
Yeah.
They took the crops, wheat crops, from the people in India, right? And then that was a different time. There's a couple famines, by the way.
First of all, we're not picking on the UK
No,
here.
no. But I want to
America
show...
has done a boatload of bad things.
But if he is coming from a Brit telling people what to do and that they can't bear arms, I want to say there are people who have been massacred and injured and killed and starved to death because they didn't have guns and they weren't allowed to stand up to the British Empire. All you need to do is do a Google search of deaths caused by the British Empire, and we see a world that was controlled 1/5 of the world, in fact, by a colonial smash and grab empire. It's not to say that all of Britain was a part of this worldwide selfish domination, and certainly not to put the blame on modern-day Brits for the sins of the past. However, when we look at the African continent, India, Asia, we see millions of dead who, if they had organized and had weapons, might have lived to plant and harvest another day, instead of being robbed of their storehouses and starved to death, some tortured by the vilest means. I mean, you can look this up, you can read it, and just awful torture. And some put into concentration camps. Even the Boers in South Africa were put in concentration camps by the British government. Please spare me the hashtags never again.
You said the Boers.
The Boers, yes. The British were in South Africa and put the Boers, people who were there before.
I didn't know that.
I know. Please spare me the hashtags never again. You may say your government will never again seek to control the lives and the destiny of others, but I don't trust any government. In fact, our own founding fathers had such a distrust of the government. Jefferson said that the government should fear the people, not the people fear the government. Modern warfare and technology has led to huge, destructive weapons of war. And so we are left with no choice but simply to allow guns instead of giving everyone a nuclear bomb. But an armed militia is enough to keep our government in at least a slight fear of the people. Now, you can... These are the links I have up here talking about the British Empire and the deaths caused. It's real. It's fact. And now, Mr. Piers Morgan, I leave you with the words of our venerated founding fathers. And I have a video here. It's supposed to come up, but it looks like it's paste and go, paste and go. No, wait. Just paste and go.
In the case of the Second Amendment, the Founding Fathers didn't call it the right to keep and bear arms the way it's written. They called it the biblical right of self-defense. So the ultimate goal of the Second Amendment is to make sure you can defend yourself against any kind of illegal force that comes against you, whether that's from a neighbor, whether that's from an outsider, or whether that's from your own government. And in the case of the American Revolution, if the Founding Fathers had not been able to take on that illegal British government coming in, so for them, it's not a matter of, oh, you got too many bullets in your magazine. It's no, whatever the government's got, we got to have the same thing, because if they've got an AK-47 and come through and we've only got a BB gun on the inside, this is not a deterrent. So the whole purpose of the Second Amendment is to make sure that you have equal power with whatever comes against you illegally. So at that point, that's got to control the gun control debate.
All right. So that's David Barton. If you don't know him, he has a website called Wall Builders, where you can find many historical documents, real source material. If you want to know what our founding fathers said, do not go to a modern historian. You can go to David Barton because he actually is one of the most. He cites out the wazoo.
Well, it's not just that he cites. Your first introduction to David Barton should be reading the Jefferson Lies. That's really his talking about with the citing that he does. Cites his sources, but he has the largest collection of historical documents in the country.
Right.
And he studies them, and he knows our founding fathers inside and out.
Right. All right, so here we go. Buckle up, because now is the best part of this whole thing. We're just going to listen to what our founding fathers had to say. All right. George Washington, we'll take turns. First annual address to both House of Congress, July 8th, 1790.
January 8th.
January, sorry. A free people ought...
David Barton, yes, that's what we said.
A free people ought not only to be armed, but disciplined. Your turn.
And that the said Constitution be never construed to authorize Congress to infringe the just liberty of the press or the rights of conscience, or to prevent the people of the United States who are peaceable citizens from keeping their own arms, or to raise standing armies unless necessary for the defense of the United States or of some one or more of them, or to prevent the people from petitioning in a peaceable and orderly manner the federal legislator for a redress of grievances, or to subject the people to unreasonable searches and seizures of their persons, papers, or possessions. George Washington, Debates of the Massachusetts Convention, February 6, 1788.
George Washington, letter to George Mason, April 5th, 1769. That no man should scruple or hesitate a moment to use arms in defense of so valuable a blessing, on which all the good and evil of life depends, is clearly my opinion.
That no man... Oh, you just read that one. All right. It may be laid down as a primary position and the basis of our system that every citizen who enjoys the protection of a free government owes not only a proportion of his property, but even of his personal services to defend of it, and consequently that the citizens of America, with a few legal and official exceptions, from 18 to 50 years of age, should be born on the militia rolls, provided with uniform arms, and so far accustomed to the use of them that the total strength of the country might be called forth at short notice on any very interesting emergency.
I just want to have, when you were saying the freedom of the press, the government cannot stop the freedom of the press. And if you look at the Google, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, they are censoring the freedom of the press. And we all know that they are being funded partially by the government. Even CNN is partially funded by the government. They cannot suppress the freedom of the press. So they can't censor you if they're receiving government funds or if they received a patent
Right.
and the government helped them start up.
Send men a text
If the
and ask
government
them to
gave them
come
startup
talk about
money,
the guns.
they cannot censor freedom of press. They cannot censor you if they have received government money, and they all have.
A free people ought not only to be armed, but disciplined, to which end a uniform and well-digested plan is requisite, and their safety and interest require that they should promote such manufactories as tend to render them independent on others for essential, particularly for military supplies. And that was John Adams' speech to Congress in 1790.
No free man shall ever be debarred from the use of arms. Thomas Jefferson, Virginia Constitution, Draft 1, 1776.
Thomas Jefferson, I prefer dangerous freedom over peaceful slavery. Letter to James Madison, 1787.
What country can preserve its liberties if their rulers are not warned from time to time that their people preserve the spirit of resistance? Let them take arms. Thomas Jefferson, letter to James Madison, December 20th, 1787.
The laws that forbid the carrying of arms are laws of such a nature. They disarm only those who are neither inclined nor determined to commit crimes. Such laws make things worse for the assaulted and better for the assailants. They serve rather to encourage than to prevent homicides, for an unarmed man will be attacked with greater confidence than an armed one. Thomas Jefferson, Commonplace Book.
All right.
17... Oh, well, go ahead.
A strong body makes the mind strong. As to the species of exercise, I advise the gun. While this gives moderate exercise to the body, it gives boldness, enterprise, and independence to the mind. Games played with the ball and others of that nature are too violent for the body and stamp no character on the mind. Let your gun, therefore, be your constant companion of your walks. Thomas Jefferson, letter to Peter Carr, August 19th, 1785.
He actually felt like you should take walks and just shoot things while you're walking. It felt like it was great exercise. The Constitution of most of our states and of the United States assert that all power is inherent in the people and that they may exercise it by themselves. It is their right and their duty at all times to be armed. Thomas Jefferson, to letter to John Cartwright, June 5th, 1824. So I just want you to know that when we're reading about when our Supreme Court is supposed to interpret the Constitution with the intent of the founders. So how do you do that?
You have to go back to the founding documents, and if you need to, go visit David Barton. I think that the justices should be best friends with David Barton because nobody knows our founding fathers like David Barton does.
So Thomas Jefferson literally believed that all men were to be armed at all times.
All right.
I enclose you.
I enclose you a list of the killed, wounded, and captives of the enemy from the commencement of hostilities at Lexington in April 1775 until November 1777, since which there has been no event of any consequence. I think that upon the whole, it has been about 1/2 the number lost by them, in some instances more, but in others less. This difference is ascribed to our superiority in taking aim when we fire, every soldier in our army having been intimate with his gun from infancy. Thomas Jefferson, letter to Giovanni Fabroni, June 8th, 17. I don't know what you missed the end of that.
To disarm the people is the most effectual way to enslave them. George Mason, referencing advice given to the British Parliament by Pennsylvania Governor Sir William Keith, the debates in the several state conventions on the adoption of the federal constitution, advice that the British have not taken. June 14th, 1788.
I ask, who are the militia? They consist now of the whole people except a few public officers. George Mason, address to the Virginia Ratifying Convention, June 4th, 1788. So did you guys catch that? Who's the militia? Everybody but a few officials.
That a well-regulated militia composed of the body of the people trained in arms is the proper, natural, and safe defense of a free state. That standing armies in times of peace should be avoided as dangerous to liberty, and that in all cases the military should, under strict subordination to and governed by the civil power. George Mason, Virginia Declaration of Rights, June 12, 1776.
Before a standing army can rule, the people must be disarmed, as they are in almost every country in Europe. The supreme power in America cannot enforce unjust laws by the sword, because the whole body of the people are armed and constitute a force superior to any band of regular troops. Noah Webster, an examination of the leading principles of the federal constitution, October 10th, 1787.
So that right there. If there was one quote I want you to take away, The supreme power in America cannot enforce unjust laws by the sword because the whole body of people are armed, and we are a superior force to any band of regular troops. If the troops are ordered to, for some reason, go against the people. Now, I happen to believe that our troops would never turn against its people. I think it would have to be some sort of crazed, like, mind control or something like that, because, our troops are awesome. Go ahead.
Is this where we are? Besides the advantage of being armed, which the Americans possess over the people of almost every other nation, the existence of subordinate governments to which the people are attached and by which the militia officers are appointed, forms a barrier against the enterprises of ambition, more insurmountable than any which a simple government of any form can admit of. James Madison, Federalist, number 46, January 29th, 1788.
The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. A well-regulated militia composed of the body of the people trained to arms is the best and most natural defense of a free country. James Madison, The Annuals of Congress, 1789.
A militia, when properly formed, are in fact the people themselves, and include, according to the past and general usage of the states, all men capable of bearing arms. All men capable of bearing arms. To preserve liberty, it is essential that the whole body of the people always possess arms and be taught alike, especially when young, how to use them. Richard Henry Lee, Federal Farmer, number 18, January 25th, 1788.
No free government was ever founded or ever preserved its liberty without uniting the characters of the citizen and soldier in those destined for the defense of the state. Such area, well-regulated militia composed of the freeholders, citizens, and husbandmen who take up arms to preserve their property as individuals and their rights as freedom. Richard Henry Lee, Freeman, Richard Henry Lee, Gazette, Charleston, September 8, 1788.
Guard with jealous attention the public liberty. Suspect everyone who approaches that jewel. Suspect every person that approaches that jewel. Unfortunately, nothing will preserve it but downright force. Whenever you give up that force, you are ruled. The great object, ruined or ruled. The great object is that every man be armed. Everyone who is able might have a gun. Patrick Henry, a speech to the Virginia Ratifying Convention, June 5th, 1778.
Are we at last brought to such humiliating and debasing degradation that we cannot be trusted with arms for our defense? Where is the difference between having our arms in possession and under our direction and having them under the management of Congress? If our defense be the real object of having those arms in whose hands can be trusted with more propriety or equal safety to us as in our own hands, Patrick Henry debates in the several state conventions on the adoption of the federal. Sorry, I didn't always.
Stacy says in the comments, the second protects the first and every other amendment.
Amen.
Well said. Are we here?
There.
All right. This may be considered as the true palladium of liberty. The right of self-defense is the first law of nature. In most governments, it has been the study of rulers to confine this right within the narrowest limits possible. Wherever standing armies are kept up and the right of the people to keep and bear arms is under any color or pretext whatsoever prohibited, liberty, if not already annihilated, is on the brink of destruction. St. George Tucker, Blackstone's Commentaries on the Laws of England in 1803.
Remember, there was Blackstone's Commentaries. He's just awesome. The supposed quietude of a good man allures the ruffian, while on the other hand, arms, like law, discourage and keep the invader and the plunderer in awe, and preserve order in the world as well as property. The balance of power is the scale of peace. The same balance would be preserved were all the world destitute of arms, for all would be alike. But since some will not, others dare not lay them aside. And while a single nation refuses to lay them down, it is proper that all should keep them up. Horrid mischief would ensue were one half the world deprived of the use of arms, while avarice and ambition have a place in the heart of man. The weak will become prey to the strong. The history of every age and nation establishes these truths, and facts need but little arguments when they prove themselves. Thomas Paine, Thoughts of Defense of War. I want you to know that, remember, these men were talking before the Bolshevik Revolution, before Nazi Germany, before all the communism that swept the globe.
And that the said Constitution be never construed to authorize Congress to infringe the just liberty of the press, or the rights of conscience, or to prevent the people of the United States, who are peaceable citizens, didn't we read this one already? from keeping their own arms or to raise standing armies unless necessary for the defense of the United States or of some one or more of them, or to prevent the people from petitioning in a peaceable and orderly manner the federal legislature for a redress of grievances, or to subject the people to unreasonable searches and seizures of their persons, papers, or possessions. We did read that one earlier.
Samuel Adams?
We didn't read Samuel Adams, but the exact same quote. I was one of the first ones I read.
No, it's very different.
It's
a little bit different. No. The right of the citizens to keep and bear arms has I think that a lot of them sound a lot alike. The right of the citizens to keep and bear arms has been justly considered as the paladin of the liberties of a republic, since it offers a strong moral check against the usurpation and arbitrary power of rulers, and will generally, even if these are successful in the first instance, enable the people to resist and triumph over them. Joseph Story, Commentaries on the Constitution of the United States, 1883.
What, sir, is the use of a militia? It is to prevent the establishment of a standing army, the bane of liberty. Whenever governments mean to invade the rights and liberties of the people, they always attempt to destroy the militia in order to raise an army upon their ruins. Representative Elbridge Gerry of Massachusetts. 1 Annals of the Congress, 750, August 17th, 1789.
Federalist Papers. If the representatives of the people betray their constituents, there is then no resource left but in the exertion of that original right of self-defense, which is paramount to all positive forms of government, and which against the usurpations of the national rulers may be exerted with infinitely better prospect of success than against those of the rulers of an individual state. In a single state, if the persons entrusted with supreme power become usurpers, the different parcels, subdivisions, or districts of which it consists have no distinct government in each, can take no regular measures for defense, and the citizens must rush tumultuously to arms without concert, without system, without resource, except in their courage and despair. Alexander Hamilton, Federalist number 28. I want you to read a couple of these because I'm going to go try to find Matt.
Patriot Gallery needs to put the link. Nathan, our friend, asked what link. This is a blog that Leah wrote.
It's an op-ed, baby.
It's an op-ed, excuse me. It's an op-ed that Leah wrote. All right. If circumstances should at any time oblige the government to form any army of any magnitude, that army can never be formidable to the liberties of the people, while there is a large body of citizens, little, if at all, inferior to them in discipline and the use of arms, who stand ready to defend their own rights and those of their fellow citizens. This appears to me the only substitute that can be devised for a standing army and the best possible security against it, if it should exist. Alexander Hamilton, Federalist number 28, January 10th, 1788. You'll notice that a lot of these Federalist papers came around the same time, obviously. Okay, here we go again with more from the Federalists. Little more can reasonably be aimed at with respect to the people at large than to have them properly armed and equipped, and in order to see that this be not neglected, it will be necessary to assemble them once or twice in the course of a year. Alexander Hamilton, Federalist number 29, June 9th, 1788. With hearts fortified with these animating reflections, we most solemnly before God and the world declare that, exerting the utmost energy of those powers which our benefactor, Creator, hath graciously bestowed upon us, the arms we have compelled by our enemies to assume, we will, in defiance of every hazard, with unabating firmness and perseverance, employ for the preservation of our liberties, being with one mind resolved to die free men rather than to live as slaves. John Dickinson, July 6, 1775.
You can read the rest of
I
these.
have the whole pulpit to myself. I would like to stay here. Here comes Kansas.
You're going to back it up?
I'm going to back the whole thing up. Move that.
Back up, back up, back up, back up. All right, so we have a special treat for you. We have our local man, as I said to Kansas.
Our local man.
Our local man.
Here, local man, grab that end of the desk and help me move it this way.
So there we go.
Keep going.
Wait,
well,
we're gonna unplug. Okay.
We're gonna unplug. Well, you might have to unplug that.
Here, I'll just move it over. All right, come in.
Let's
Make sure we have
see.
Kansas.
There we are. No, we're all there.
Should I put this up? I don't know if it'll fit up.
It might.
Okay, so the lefty people, they are calling for an outright gun ban. Like, that's what they really want.
Which isn't going to do a thing.
Which isn't going to do a thing. And
why? Everybody take a step
obviously
back.
the first homicide in the Bible was, Cain and Abel. And, we weren't there, but, it's probably a rock or a stick or something.
Right,
They
exactly.
didn't have guns. They didn't have, AR-15s or, big giant military grade weaponry here.
No, and you're absolutely right. So Kansas has been preparing, okay, in case there's never any bullets. And he the one thing that comes to mind is like, I'm sorry.
You don't have to do the thing.
The P on the
Stop
thing. Okay, so you've been explain to the people how, we watched The Patriot and he melted down. And tell them how you can.
Well, old-fashioned muskets. I mean, it's just a very simple process. I mean, they look like a rifle. They shoot like one, basically, but they're very simple. Where the powder is separate from the wadding and the round that you put in there. So, in effect, since it's just a round ball, you can just melt some lead down in the little mold and make a bunch of musket balls or those little conical shaped things that they used in the Civil War, and in effect you could have your own ammo and gunpowder. It's not that complicated, to make. And I mean, they tell you exactly how to make it right there at Plymouth Plantation in Plymouth, Massachusetts. So they just basically you can either use like a metal box or like they just put a bunch of wood in the ground and then somehow cover it up with dirt. And the process is that you get it really hot, but it doesn't get any oxygen to the wood.
Is that the same way as making charcoal?
That's pretty much the same thing. And then you have to add saltpeter and a few things to it. I'm not...
Where does the urine come in?
Well, from what I've heard, it can be explosive when you're doing the final like mixing, where you're kind of grinding and mashing all together and everything, where the urine can kind of help the
urine is quite helpful in a lot of things. Actually,
it can help the final product to work, and it obviously if it's wet, then it's not going to be explosive. So
you'd be surprised how often in old recipes urine is actually used, like in dyes and things like that.
Well, it just kind of shows how immature Leah and I are, because when Kansas was telling us about this, he said he made the mistake of saying you pee on it, and Leah and I are thinking explosive. Peeing on something might not be the best, so that's why Leah is getting a little bit immature here.
It's a little funny. It's a little funny to me. No, it's just funny to me.
Well, if I have it right, that's a saltpeter that you get from the urine, possibly. I think you can get it from like old barns where they've had animals lodged inside for years and stuff. That's what they used to do in the Revolutionary War and stuff.
Right. So he has information on all of this. He's been working on, compiling things just in case, the poop hits the fan or whatever they say. But do you have any other tips for people as far as, what guns to get now? I mean, remember, and kind of already know that we have an AR-15, and one of the reasons that Kansas bought one was because they were talking about, again,
gun grab.
Was it 2013?
I like the idea of the modern weapons, obviously, for self-defense and stuff.
Right.
And obviously you can make your own ammunition for those, but it's just, more complicated.
You actually prefer older weapons that you can make your own, ammo from and things like that.
It's a lot simpler, I'd say. I mean, there's probably ways that you can make your own shell casings and stuff.
Aside from using like recycled ones.
Right. Head that you press onto it when it's filled with gunpowder.
Right.
But, it gets more complicated and you need more technical equipment.
We're talking about zombie apocalypse. You can make your own. The Gibbon Watts boys, they used a hymnal for their wadding.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They had the gunpowder, which they could make. They didn't have to buy. They could make it and melt down, like you said, lead.
Yeah, it shouldn't be that complicated. I like the simplicity.
Right, in case something happens and they do try to take your guns. Those are things that they can't take.
Yeah, I mean, you could take old wheel weights off of an old car or something and melt them down, and you can, essentially reuse those as ammunition.
Right.
Whereas, obviously once the store is closed, then, you have to store up what you need ahead of time or have the equipment.
It's kind of the difference between stockpiling food and then being able to grow your own food.
Yeah.
It's
exactly
good to have both.
Because even if you have the expertise and the equipment to make your own rounds for modern weapons, I mean, I think that at some stage of it, you need some kind of raw materials coming in.
Right.
Unless even if it's just really thin brass sheet metal that you can kind of press into the casings.
Exactly.
I mean, where are you going to get brass from? And, you know what I mean?
Right.
And try to hammer it out really flat and even. I mean, it might be kind of
So, Kansas, I know what Patriot Gallery is coming out here to ask you, I think. If they try to take your guns, if they do take your guns, will you just make your own gun?
It's theoretically possible. I mean, they have for hundreds of years. You know, we shouldn't necessarily have to go to the store to make one.
But you have a ball and musket gun that you're working on,
and it's very simple too, because the old-fashioned ones, I mean, it's just a barrel, and instead of being open where the round goes in one end of the barrel and then flies out the other end, I mean, it's just closed. So you use the ramrod or whatever to push the round into the barrel, and then it, you know, has the hammer or whatever, and it
and
fires.
the Patriot, did they use that?
Yeah, that's what they had.
Right.
I was gonna say, on camera, Matt looks like a giant next to you guys. He's huge.
I have this.
I never
I'm
noticed
supposed
how
to stand
tall
on
he
it.
was before.
Lift up your right foot.
He looks like this tiny
have
little
this
I
midget.
think
supposed
I
to
always
stand
make
on.
Leah look like a midget. I told her she had to stand on that blanket because it wasn't looking right on camera with me that much taller than.
But I also was going to
Leah.
say, when Justin lived here, we saw how blacksmithing works.
Yep.
Right.
And a
milling.
blacksmith is what made a gun in the first place.
Right.
And it was to tell the communists and socialists out there, the gun grabbers, you'll never disarm America because we have mechanics. We have people who can work with these machine shop people. We have jack of all trades. We have engineers. We'll work together. You won't disarm us.
Right, exactly.
But Matt was going to explain how you can take a tube, a copper tube or whatever, and then start from there. But I thought he'd show more of the machine shop part of it. And Matt also works with wood a lot. Mm-hmm. So the wood handles are pretty much easy. We've seen him make guns on the blacksmithing show.
Yeah, all you need is a mill, and the mill does not have to be electronically operated, correct?
No, I don't think so.
I mean, you just old-fashioned, just kind of get your, I don't know how, that works, but...
And it seems like they do make, really primitive weaponry in, like, South Africa or South America and different places out of, just metal, steel, like, plumbing pipes and stuff. Obviously, high carbon steel is a lot better. Something that's really hard is better than a, weaker metal.
Right.
But, in theory, I mean, it's very simple. And, just to make a tube and have a stock to attach to it.
So there's been a lot of things that you have been going through your brain. Like, if something happens, what can I make and what can I do without having to go to the store and buy something? And guns and muskets and balls have been, like, heavily weighed on your heart. Do you think there's a reason for that?
It's just preparedness, just praying about, what we all need to do ahead of time.
Right.
Because we all know that, things are going to progress and, the world's going to kind of fall apart as we know it. So, you know what I mean?
Right.
So you want to get everything lined up now.
Right. Exactly. I mean, like, before...
Utilize your resources for what really counts, what really matters.
Before guns, I mean, people used, like, swords and bows and arrows and things like that. But
slings and stuff.
But we do have guns. And guns are necessary now for hunting and for killing animals. I mean, you need what would you do to kill our pigs if you didn't have a 22? I mean, it's not that it just makes it easier to stun them and then...
Yeah, in theory, you could use a knife, but yeah, I mean, a gun just makes it easier because you just know that you're going to hit the right
loaded?
spot and
What do you think?
it'll
Is it
drop
loaded?
them.
I don't know.
It's not loaded. I like visual aids. All right. So, visual aid number 1. Hold up the first one. This is a very small. He's
we're
like,
kind of in the tight location here.
Yeah.
I mean, how am I supposed to hold it and not aim it at something?
This is a very small weapon. It's just a 22 revolver. It's Kansas's, but he lets me keep it. This was a weapon that's wonderful. Having any kind of weapon is a really, really good idea. You should have a weapon.
Can you just look at that and make sure no bullets in that thing?
There's no bullets. It's mine.
Well, I just would like him to look at it. Thank you.
It's a 22. But anyway, I like a visual aid. So for me, the visual aid is, this is a weapon.
Don't play with guns in the house.
I'm not trying to play with it.
Don't play with guns in the house.
Put the hammer back down. Visual weapon. Now, this is far more important.
Okay,
we're talking about... Phil. No, but seriously. Kansas.
You saw this from Phil.
Yeah, but I can take it because they were going to charge $85 for Phil Robertson to watch that episode. We're here for free, okay? But in all honesty, if you had to choose your weapon of choice, Kansas, what would it be?
Obviously, the Bible. I mean, that's your spiritual sword. I mean, if you're not really seeking God and everything for your life, then everything else is pretty much, worthless.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, I mean, that's what's really necessary. And, as we see in the Bible, I mean, at times, the 2 members from, Saul's army would go wake up early before everybody else and say, you know what, let's go out there and let's see if the Lord's delivered him under our hand. And then a whole army falls to 2 men, Jonathan and whoever the other guy was. But if it's, if the Lord's with you, then obviously God allows his people to be afflicted and they go through things.
Don't
and all
stand
that.
in front of the gun.
But, obviously.
Keep going. Patriot Gallery's going to come in and stand right there. So
you just want to seek the Lord first.
Yeah. Patriot Gallery.
Well, holding up gives you power. Now, I was hoping Matt would explain how he must have felt when he saved a life. He saved his mother's life using a gun.
Tell that story.
He needs to tell that story and then maybe do a hard break before you go on.
No, we're done. We're going to just open the package.
Well, you do a hard break.
No. Okay. We're not going to open the package by itself.
All right.
People are already here. Sydney. Another one.
Another tripod?
I need to get a new tripod. It's not tall enough.
Oh.
Mom says do a hard break.
At least it's still working, right? The computer fell on the ground.
It went slow. Are we still live? That's going to be really funny if we're still live.
Are we still here? Wait, camera.
Are we really still here?
You guys were here for the whole time? We didn't even break?
No way. All right, then let me fix. Hang on. It was Sydney. And so we're not going to do the hard break.
We're still here. All right, Kansas. We're still here.
Wait a minute.
You know what? On Resistance Chicks, it's never going to be perfect.
Mm-mm.
And that's what makes this awesome. And that's why you're still here, because...
No, back up.
Back up.
You people. Now get in. Come in until you see yourself. There you go.
Okay. Tell them the story, how you're a great hero, and they're going to sing a song about you when you die.
Well, I don't know about that, but obviously it just feels more natural, and there's more anointing, at least for me, thinking of, using guns and sort of a as needed defense, yeah. On the homestead, farm, ranch type situation, because obviously there it's more about, maybe an animal's hurt itself and you have to put it down, or some sort of predator comes in, you have to defend the livestock or something. Whereas obviously, if you're in a really urban environment, anybody that's carrying, obviously the first thing that's on their mind is, that's there to, kill a person potentially if they have to.
Right, exactly. So when you're on the homestead or you're out in the country, it's not as weird, right? So tell them what you did with your mom. You as a mom and you.
Well, basically, I worked on a cattle ranch growing up some, and there at one point there was a poisonous snake, and it was coming out of the water towards us,
and his mom.
Yeah, I shot the poisonous snake.
He shot the snake, saved his mom's life. What'd you shoot it with?
Oh, that was a shotgun.
Shotgun. Speaking of shotguns, if you were point blank with somebody versus a 22 or AR-15 or a shotgun,
why are you throwing a 22 in there?
I'm just saying.
I have nightmares where somebody comes to attack me and I'm defending myself with a 22 and they won't go down.
I'm gonna tell you the line. A shotgun can do way more damage close up than an AR-15 even. It's gonna blow up your body. It's gonna kind of do more to a person self-defense wise, which is why they tell you to use shotguns for self-defense and not AR-15s.
When they have a wide spread, so that you can make sure that you're hitting the target, because sometimes the situations are really intense, I'd imagine, and you only have one shot at it before the person comes at you to assault you or something, so you have to be prepared.
So if you only had one weapon and there was a home intruder, you wouldn't get your AR-15. You'd probably get a shotgun because you're gonna take somebody down with a shotgun.
Yeah, it's not gonna be good long range, but it's good defense short, up close range.
Because a lot of people are saying that the AR-15 is like this super dangerous weapon and causes horrible wounds, but actually a shotgun causes worse wounds than an AR-15.
Guns. The ammo keeps getting smaller. It's just that they can shoot faster.
What
but
happened to your hand?
In theory, they're getting.
I saw that.
Obviously they're more repeatable than they used to be. So, it's not like they cause that much damage. It's just that,
now,
they can have more ammo.
Since we have Kansas here, and we are kind of all, what's the word? Transferable. You ask any one of us a question unrelated to weapons, which Lee and I are not going to have the answers for that, really. We can kind of all answer the same thing. So everybody's asking me, Michelle, it's almost the same question. AR, shotgun, Geneva, King James. Everybody's asking, what is the Geneva? What is the King James? I could answer that question for you. Leah could answer that question for you. But since we have our dear handsome Maddie, is what I like to call him here at the house.
Have you seen Italian Job? They have Handsome Rob. We call him Handsome Matt.
Kansas, why don't you tell the people a little bit about the Geneva Bible and the difference between?
Well, it's a lot of the same people that produce the King James, produce the Geneva Bible, and it has study notes that are in line with John Calvin and Martin Luther and the guys of the Reformation era. But as far as this goes, I really like this text, but if you want to be sure that you're remembering the scriptures accurately, the scripture chapter and verses, then you might need to renumber it in places. They produced it exactly the way it was. So there are, I think, 3 different chapters in Job where the numbering is off by like 1 or 2 scriptures, and then there's one chapter where they combine 2 scriptures together instead of being listed separately. So if you start to learn them or you want to look them up or something, it might throw you off.
So
and Daniel's the same way.
What came first, the chicken or the egg, Geneva or King James?
This came first, I'm pretty sure.
The same people who wrote the Geneva Bible were commissioned by King James to write the King James, which is why it was revised. But something very particular was taken out of it, and those were those study notes that condemned tyranny, the divine right of kings, and things like that.
It was the first study Bible of its time, because what happened was the Bible was translated into English for the first time. We can thank Martin Luther for putting it into German. The Bible was put into English for the first time. The Word of God was put into the hands of the people, but they needed somebody to teach it to them.
Right.
And they didn't have pastors, because you got to understand, these people came from the Church of England, and they didn't know anything about the Bible. All they had was the scriptures themselves,
right?
And they needed an instructor. And so the Geneva Study Bible made it so that these people could understand the scriptures. And I have read the entire Old Testament. I think you've read the whole thing. And the study notes, I read the Bible many times over. But this particular book, and I have only found, this is a guess, probably about 6 or 7 of the study notes that I think are wrong. But other than that, I kind of view them almost, and not entirely, but almost as infallible as the Word of God, these people that were translating this. But
it's the Bible of the Pilgrims.
King James wanted himself to be listed as God.
Which obviously they didn't, but...
They tricked him. They didn't. The Bible is, the King James was written, it was just kind of took the Geneva, edited
so it's
some
kind
things.
of like the same, somebody said the King James Version is Geneva without the notes. Almost.
Just a few revisions. It just got a little bit clearer, a little bit different, but basically,
some of the wording's a little bit different. It's sort of like the new translations. Some, in some scriptures, they can add more, I don't know, color to a particular scripture, but at the same time, you can't go wrong with the original, like King James or Geneva, because obviously with new versions, it's like any conspiracy theory. I mean, there's just random scriptures that are taken out.
Right.
They're just not even there. It's like, you ask anybody who Lucifer is, anybody in the world, they'd say, well, obviously that's devil, it's Satan. But, the line in, I believe it's Isaiah 14, where he says, oh, Lucifer, the son of the morning, or whatever it says, just Lucifer's gone. And it's just, I forget, there's like...
your dog. Sydney.
There's like 20 or I don't know, somewhere between 20 and 40, depending on the version, just scriptures that are kind of omitted.
But there's a lot of life in the Geneva Bible.
Let me read you, because since we're talking about the weapons and all that stuff, in Genesis, where God is talking to Cain, and God says to Cain, because Cain's like, listen, why are you angry? It says, the Lord says to Cain, why art thou wroth, and why is thy countenance cast down? And he says to Cain, if thou do well, shalt thou not be accepted. Now, it says right there in the study note, both thou and thy sacrifice shall be acceptable to me. So a lot of people question, well, was it just because he brought vegetables and he brought the harvest? No, if you do well, you and your sacrifice shall be acceptable. So that's a study note. If thou do well, thou and thy sacrifice shall be acceptable to me. And if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door, and it says in the study note there, sin shall still torment thy conscience. Then it says, also unto thee his desire, sin lieth at the door, also unto thee his desire shall be subject, and thou shalt rule over him. Then it says, the dignity of the firstborn is given to Cain over Abel. So there's a lot of things throughout the Geneva Bible that just really open up the Word of God.
Yeah.
Kind of like opening up a flower. You get to see a lot more
especially
to it.
In the Song of Solomon. I really like the study notes in the Song of Solomon and in Revelation.
And there's references and stuff like that. So, I think now...
Without further ado, you're going to get the package?
Eric Buskey
you stay for the
and
package.
his lovely wife, or not wife, sister Marlene, have been with us for a really long time. Since this time last year, around your birthday. So if I'm not mistaken, there is a birthday package in here for Leah. But there's also a birthday package for Patriot Gallery. So, Kansas, do you have your knife or do you want mine? Let him open this. I'm going to make sure that Mom comes out here for this.
If you have any questions for Candace while you got him, it's a rare occurrence. Go ahead and leave them in the chat. Mono.
Now, it would be really great if our mom agreed to be on camera, but she will not. Yeah. So you're not going to get to see her reaction.
But we have something almost as good, thanks to Eric.
I'm here. That's how I'm here. Hi, everybody.
She loves to use her puppet hand on screen. I think...
Oh, my goodness.
Eric has made...
Looks just like me.
It actually
looks just
like Patriot Gallery. Now step it back so that it's not quite up close to the cameras. You need to back up a little bit.
Actually, that's exactly her hair color,
Her hair color looks just like this. Like,
and
no
it's
joke.
long, too.
And it's long. I love the Patriot.
The only thing is she has green eyes. So now when Mom wants to come...
Mom, you have to see it on camera. Oh my gosh. Leah, come. No, Matt, get in the shot.
Wait. I got to get my foot over top of...
It doesn't have to be plugged in, you know.
It's better. Okay.
All right, now,
The arms have
Can't
sticks
just do
to
the
it.
shot.
The arms have sticks to it.
Okay. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Hang on, wait. Hold the stick, Leah. Hold the stick. Is that no? Use the mouth. You need to actually be talking now, Mom. You want to say thank you?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is that not the greatest thing you have ever seen?
What do you think about the bow in your hair?
You're strangling me with this. You gotta fix my necklace, please. I'm dying here. Oh, I can't breathe.
Wait a minute. Here we go. Here we go.
So when they said choker, they meant it.
Oh my gosh, that is so fantastic. We'll have to work on the necklace and get it.
What do you think of your bow?
It's so cute. Look at me, I'm cute. I'm cute.
Eric, you have outdone yourself. There is no, I don't even have words. Like, seriously, the lighting here is actually too bright for you to see the color of this. Let me see if I turn that light out. For you to be able to see the color here, because for some reason this light's really, really stark. But it is fantastic. The hair is perfect. It doesn't get any more. I don't know how you made this hair, where you got this hair, but it is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Oh my gosh! I wish we had opened the box ahead of time.
What do you think of the box?
That's pretty impressive right there.
Thank you.
All right, so is it you want me to open this now? That's private for later. That's it. All right. So you know what we're gonna do, because Eric and Marlene were very excited about what they sent, and they should be. Watch the bow. Don't get too crazy with the bow. Leah's birthday is March 11th, and Marlene has sent you a gift and 2 cards. So I think that I get to hold Patriot Gallery.
I think. Okay, but that's having way too much fun.
Yes,
holding
you
Mom.
were probably having way too much fun.
One of 2. All right. Oh, it's so pretty. You're more than my friend. You're my family. Amen. I dropped that. March 11th is my birthday. Also, happy almost birthday, Marlene. That's so awesome. Enjoy the book. There's a book. There's going to be a book. I have one, too, for my birthday. We went to support the cause. God bless America again and again and again. We've shared more laughs of life events than either of us could probably count. We can tell each other stories like they were our own things. You're simply irreplaceable, and that's why I'm celebrating you today, like my friend, like my family. With love in Christ, Mrs. Marlene Ruth Allen, one of your sisters in Christ. I love you. A wonderful year with Resistance Chicks. So wonderful. I enjoy the live shows with the live chats very much. You are amazing. I watch repeats daily. That's awesome.
She watches repeats. Mom needs to come out here so that I can actually use this thing. I can't just be Mom. I mean, I could try.
What does that say?
Turn on the big 4-0.
Marlene is, you can't see it. Get it closer to the thing. Marlene is, she knows enough about our family because she's been with us for a long time.
She's going to send him a card.
Is turning the big 4-0 on the 27th. Patriot Gallery here has a birthday. Won't tell you how old she is, but she's very young.
Extra. Read all about it. I love how you just set those down.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
He's very excited about his birthday. That's private.
Okay, private. Okay. Ooh, that's pretty.
That's a really pretty card.
Beautiful, strong, unique, and inspiring. Have a great day and a great year. You are more beautiful than a peacock.
I love that.
Dear Leah Faith, thank you for saying that. I like that, actually.
Leah prefers to be called Leah Faith.
There's only one person in the world like you, and I'm glad you are my sister. I like that you call. Yes, sisters in Christ, definitely. Mrs. Marlene Allen, one of your sisters in Christ. I love you. Thanks for being a spiritual blessing and encouragement. I love your singing. All right, so I'm gonna open up.
I really
this.
need Mom to come out here so that I can actually be Mom. This would be Mom, the covering. Here we go.
Oh!
Dude, that's so awesome! Oh my gosh!
Ben Garrison cartoons. I follow him on Twitter. He has the best cartoons. He's hilarious. Oh my gosh, we should do one every day.
That's the perfect gift.
Oh my gosh, this is so awesome. He does so
Look at
many.
these. Lower it down. There you go.
Wait, wrong way. There we go.
And there's the Hillary one.
Hillary's passed.
I love it.
Thank
oh my
you.
Gosh. That is so awesome.
We could just go through all of these. This would be so funny. So fun.
So I'm not even looking in the chat right now because I wanted to be able to see the puppet. So I haven't seen any of the comments, but Chris Holman says, Kansas, you and I are both turning 40 this year. We really are clones. If you guys have not subscribed to Chris Holman's channel, please do so. His latest video, the virtues of, shoot, I'm going to get it wrong. Chris, why don't you put the link in the chat here, and then I'll make sure that it's in the description. I wanted to show it. Again, I'll probably postpone it one more day of videoing because we've gone really long, and I want to give it the attention it's due. But I want you guys to go and watch that video because it's awesome.
He is so funny. I love this. Awesome. Thank you, Marlene.
This is fantastic. It's early birthday, and you have a puppet. You have a mom puppet.
I have a mom puppet. This is
I
the
want to
best.
be a ventriloquist. I don't know if I could do mom with my mouth. But if you're a mom, as a ventriloquist, I always thought that I could be a ventriloquist.
You can you're allowed to have a space between your teeth.
I can have a space between your teeth, and then I sound a little bit more like, wait.
Can you do
I'm not really good
ventriloquism?
I don't know about that.
I don't know.
I don't know how you do it without sounding muffled.
I don't either. I think
but
you
if she
can
came
have
out here,
if
she was here to give her mom, like,
go.
We need to storm the Vatican. All the Muslims need to storm the Vatican.
She said that the other day. Have the Muslims storm the Vatican.
Patriot puppet should sing.
That'd be great.
Whoa, say, can you see?
You can't just put the puppet in front of your face.
I can if I want. That's the way I can be a puppeteer.
Is there anything else in the box?
I don't think so.
Okay,
I didn't
good.
look at the box.
I want to make sure that
They express overnighted this package.
Okay, good.
Here. Patriot Gallery is... she's going to flip it.
Chris, Eric, sorry. When you sent the picture for this, we
screamed
about Peter.
I could not... Candace was sitting there, and I was sitting there, and Leah was sitting there, and I was like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And I wanted to tell our mom, but I was like, no.
You know what I'm going to do, though? I wonder if I can, put, green marker on the eyes, because she has green eyes. Wouldn't that be funny?
Yeah. So I want the necklace to be right. There we go.
So thank you, Eric and Marlene. You guys are awesome. Kansas is going to hold that. Make sure that Sydney doesn't.
And you know what? In the picture,
I didn't know
I didn't think it was going to be life size.
Yeah,
it looks a lot smaller in the box, but it's hard to judge scale by a picture.
It looks smaller in the box. I mean, it's definitely life size small.
This is the coolest thing. Oh my gosh! And now, hold up ours. Oh my gosh! Yeah. We all have. This is the Resistance Chicks trio. So who's gonna make the Kansas doll? Somebody. Kansas doll. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we're gonna sign off with this. Actually, you know what? You know who's gonna sign off? Mom. Right. Okay, ready? Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Mass Faith 3 and Resistance Chicks. Ring the bell. Wait a minute. Ring the bell. Oh, shoot, we lost the flag. Ring the bell
ding,
for
ding.
notifications. Find us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. Kansas.
It's not just a
It's not just a conspiracy theory if it's the truth.
We love you. God loves you.
Oh.
God bless.
Oh, I have something to add. Okay, so I've been trying to get Kansas, and he's so busy right now, and I don't even know if he will have time to do this, but because he is he's fixing cars, the spring broke on the garage today, he's moving logs, he is just busy all the time. But if there's anything that you would like for him to investigate, leave it in the chat, leave it in the comments. If he has time, if he gets enough people interested. If you haven't seen the Kansas Cowboy, he's done one on the
Eric
NASA.
says, thank you for your words tonight, Kansas. Wise words, buddy.
I'd love to have him. Or if there's something in which you just want him to come back on, because he might not have time to do a whole Kansas Cowboy in a video like he's done in the past.
Yeah, he does.
But if he doesn't, he could. If you have something that you'd like for him to discuss and talk about, because maybe you just want to hear what he has to say.
You know what? Patriot Gallery, always wanting Kansas to do Kansas Cowboys. more Kansas Cowboys. This Patriot Gallery.
But it's coming on spring and summer, and he's busy outside, so he can just come and talk. It's a lot easier.
He got time to read his Bible.
He does have time to read his Bible.
Got time to speak the word. Speak it.
Well, I guess
Speak it out.
like John Quincy Adams says, if you don't have time to read your Bible, then I guess you don't have time for anything else.
They want you to sing.
Sing, Kansas. What, do you got a song in your...
Not exactly.
Yes, you do.
He's a really good
Oh,
singer.
come on. You got the words for that?
No, I don't.
What's some of our song? The ones that you and I sing. Our cowboy songs.
We don't really sing cowboy songs a lot.
What? But the ones that when we do sing.
Yeah, when we
What's the
sing
one-
cowboy songs like once or twice.
Not Streets of Laredo. What's the one I'm thinking of?
Let's sing the Battle Hymn of the Republic, at least a couple verses.
Yeah, something like that.
Whoa.
Wow,
We'll get
I didn't know we
censored
were
for
going to
that.
get, yeah.
I
All right.
might get censored for singing the Battle Hymn of the Republic.
That's a really good intro.
I got from my mom's hair in my mouth. He is not embarrassed. Actually, Kansas doesn't usually get embarrassed.
He's a really good singer.
He's a good singer. Now, maybe you might need to have this microphone a little bit like... No, it'll be in front of the camera.
Oh, we'll just keep it here. It's fine.
Okay.
All right.
Let him start it so it's the key he's comfortable with.
You start it, yeah.
When we all started, approximately the same.
Approximately the same
key.
time, like 1 second after you will start.
Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He is trampling out the vintage where the grapes of wrath are stored.
He's loosed the faithful
lightning
of his terrible
sword.
His truth is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on.
Let him do the things by himself. Verses are all Kansas. You got this.
I've seen.
Well, I'm kind of getting a little choked up here.
He's getting choked up.
My throat's a little bit stressed here. It's a singing, I guess.
I've seen.
See, so I need a little help.
Okay, all right.
Keep it going. Just keep it going.
Okay. I've seen him in the watchfires of 100 circling camps. They have built in him an altar in the evening dew and damps.
His righteous
Sentence
In his dim and flaring lamps, his day is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on. I have read a fiery gospel written, burning his rows of steel, as ye have. I don't know that verse.
Deal with my
Condemners, so with you my griefs shall deal. Let the hero born of woman crush the serpent with his heel.
Or blow it up with a shotgun like Kansas did.
Since God is marching on.
Bum.
Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on.
Please sing the last one by yourself.
He has
sounded forth the trumpet that shall never call retreat. He is
sifting out the hearts of men before his judgment seat.
Oh, be swift, my soul, to answer him. Be jubilant, my feet.
High.
Our God is marching on.
Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on. Sydney is just really into this right now.
Kansas gonna go get his dog. Sorry,
Poor
I don't know why
Sydney.
Sydney gets so upset.
I think Matt
the
got
singing.
started a little too high.
He got high, then he went low. But what did they say? When they go low, we go high.
Yeah. All right, guys. We'll see you Sunday at 1.
We go live every Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We made a hard break today. That's why we have 2 episodes up. If you guys didn't see the episode that we did covering Billy Graham's funeral,
Don't you have a treat to throw at this dog?
go and see that we did a little bit earlier. And every Sunday at 1, we do our UK and Euro news. So we will see you guys Sunday at 1. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
We really appreciate having you. Eric, Marlene, this is
it's creepy.
Amazing.
Like for real, like I'm feeling
absolutely
the presence of my
amazing.
mom
What we're
behind
gonna
my
have
shoulder.
to do is figure out a way. I think what's gonna have to happen is we're just gonna have to hold the puppet and talk for her
as she comes up. That's probably
this is gonna become a staple in the living room. Like Mom's always gonna be sitting here.
Oh wow.
Looking at us, looking at
Stop!
I always feel like
my mom is watching me.
Wow. Sorry. All right, you guys. We love you. God loves you. God bless Kansas. Thank you for being here for our interview. We need to have more Kansas. Raise your hand if you want to see more Kansas. Somebody said more cowbell. I say more Kansas bell. How about that? That's right. All right, you guys. God bless.
The dead calm down. What you just really said, you need to...
I was cold, all alone. No place for home every day. So afraid. But you called my name. Opened my eyes to the light.
We're still live. We're still live.
Thanks for coming, Matt. Thanks for coming.